Good night, guys. Welcome back. And today we have a question submitted by one of our awesome epic students, Yuvraj. And it is 2 a.m., but I promised, I was like, yo, I will do this question. And the reason why is that this question is a little bit interesting. Yuvraj mentioned that different teachers had different answers, and I'll show you guys two methods like based on interpretation of a certain part of this question that you could actually get two different answers, and then I'll tell you guys why one answer I believe is the correct answer. So stay tuned and I'll show you guys both methods. Now, to be honest, a question like this I do not think will come for the essay exams 2025 to 2028. It is a bit ambiguous, and the examiners, they know this, and they do not want teachers challenging questions. If a question seems to not have one solution, they don't want to put that on essay, and then if they are wrong, they would have to strike that question and give students the marks. So all of the questions for essay are usually much more straightforward. Now, what I want you guys to do is, well, the first thing I actually told a couple of students in Standard 5 this is we want to read and understand and extract the most important parts of this question. Then we proceed to start to solve the question. So let's read. Kevin picked plums over the weekend. Whoa. Oh, let me just switch the pointer. He picked a total of 65 plums on Saturday, right? On Sunday, he picked 1 1/5 more than he did on Saturday. The total number of plums picked over the weekend represents 33 1/3, also known as 1/3, of the total plums picked over the weekdays. How many plums did he pick over the weekdays? So remember, we just have to figure out how much plums he picked over the weekdays. Some students had challenges with this question where they added the amount they solved for the weekday and the weekend. But no, guys, it is just the weekdays. So if we find the total amount for the weekend, that represents 1/3 of the amount picked over the weekdays. So once we get that first answer, guys, all we need to do is multiply it by 3. But we have to get that answer first. So let's work on it, right? So on Saturday, they gave us, guys, he picked 65. They gave us that. That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. We already have that piece of information. On Sunday, however, that's where we have to work for our marks, right? Think about you doing chores for allowance. That's what we have to do to get marks. So on Sunday, he picked 1 1/5 more than he did on Saturday. Now, there are different ways we could work this out. 1 1/5 would be the total amount on Saturday, which would be 65, and then we calculate 1/5 of 65, right? And that will be 13, and 65 plus 13, that would give us a total of 78. That's one method, a simpler method. Another method would be, you guys know, multiplication. So we turn this 1 1/5 into an improper fraction. So 1 1/5. Remember, I showed you guys the cheat code, well, the hack, where we take 5 multiplied by 1 plus that 1 on top, and that will give us 6/5. That is the improper fraction that represents 1 1/5. And all we do is we just multiply it by the amount we got on Saturday, and this would represent 1 1/5. So what we can do is we could just say 65 into 5, so 5 into 5, 1, 5 into 65, 13, right? I'm gonna make that 3 better. And then 6 multiplied by 13, and that will give us the same answer, 78. So there, I showed you guys two methods of figuring out how much we get on Sunday. Now, guys, this is where things get a little bit tricky, right? Now, I believe they said 1 1/5, and usually it represents this would be the total amount that he picked on Sunday, right? So the total amount, I believe, would be 78. So let's solve it the way I believe is correct. And then I'll show you guys what other people are also saying could be the potentially correct answer. Now, when I first did this question, I was kind of in a rush, and I did both ways because the language itself is not clear. It is ambiguous, which means it isn't straightforward as we would like it. So let's solve with the current Sunday being 78. So as I told you guys, the weekend represents 33 and a third. So if this is the full amount, Saturday and Sunday would represent a third of it. So therefore, we just multiply by 3 and we'll get the full answer. So total weekend would just be 65 plus 78. And once we add 65 and 78, we would get a total of 143. And again, let's go to the second part of the question. The total number of plums picked over the weekend represents a third of the total plums picked over the weekend. So if it represents a third, right, it will just be 143, 143, 143, or 143 multiplied by 3. 3 3s are 9, 4 3s are 12. Put the 2 here, carry the 1 across. 1 by 3 is 3 plus 1, 4. So my final answer is equal to 429. 429 plums. That is my final answer, and I believe that is the correctamundo answer. However, let's take the suggestion, let's think of it like this. The other potential for this question, right, is that, again, let's go back to the language. And this is why I tell you guys, section 3 and section 2 of the maths paper, it has to do with maths, but it has a lot to do with comprehension skills. If we have weak comprehension and interpretation skills, we might do the wrong thing, even though it might be super simple. And this is why when we do the past paper class for standard 5s only on Sundays from 4 to 6, I try to show them what the words and the actual meaning. So if they say find something of something, that means to multiply, right? So words have certain meanings, and once you know that code, you'll be able to decode these questions, and it would appear so simple, like, for you. So that's why we do a lot of practice. Let's go into the second potential method. So they said on Sunday he picked 1 1/5 more than he did on Saturday. So if we interpret it differently, it could be that on Sunday he picked 1 1/5 more than he did on Saturday, and on Saturday he picked 65, and 1 1/5 more would actually be what we worked out, 78. So therefore, then Sunday would be that 65 plus the 78, right? So 65 plus 78, and that would give us a total of 143 for Sunday alone. So you guys see that they said on Sunday he picked 1 1/5 more than he did on Saturday. So we take Saturday's amount, 65, and we add it, you guys thought I was going to say 67, and then we add it to 1 1/5 more, which we calculated before, 78, and we get 143. So therefore, in this new understanding of it, Saturday and Sunday would be the original 65 plus the 143 we just calculated. And 143 plus 65, that will give us 208. And as we said before, to find the total for the week, total for weekday would be 208 multiplied by 3, because the 208 would represent a third, and that would be 624 plums. Now again, guys, for this question, I believe the answer is 429. But again, because of the ambiguity and the lack of specifics with regards to the question, you could interpret it to mean that the total would be the original amount from Saturday and the 1 1/5 from Sunday to give us the Sunday value. So this would be the secondary answer, but I believe this would be the correct answer, and I did not confirm from Yuvraj what was the answer on the booklet, but I do believe it would have been the 429, because that's what they usually do in questions like this. Anyhow, guys, hope it helps. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comment below. Take care and peace.